What is up, and welcome back to Beyond the Arc with Brandon Silvers. As always, I am your host, Brandon Silvers. NBA season is upon us, and I'm doing something a little bit different this year with the NBA previews. I'm focusing on some teams that don't really get the love I feel like they deserve, and the teams I'm interested in hearing about. But to do that, I need a little bit of help. And so I got a guest for y'all today. If you watch the show, you are familiar with this gentleman, the James Brown of podcasting, the host of Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth, and A Wicked Good Time, and Growing Up Low Country with Danny and Liz, and At the Plate with Danny Foxworth, here to talk about his Oklahoma City Thunder, Danny Foxworth. Danny, what is going on?
Brandon Silvers, what is good people? Pleasure to be back in the presence of one Brandon Silvers. And I've never talked about OKC Thunder on any podcast in any capacity, so I'm ready to nerd out. Let's rock.
This is historic. So let's get started taking a look back at last season. I remember thinking heading into the season, like, okay, might be time for the Thunder, maybe make the playoffs. They seem ready for that. And then lo and behold, y'all end up with the 1 seed in the West. Just an incredible season. Shai's an MVP candidate. Chet Holmgren, obviously. So many things happen. At what point during last season were you like, okay, wait a second, we have a squad?
I think it was back in February when they actually matched their season win total from last year. And I'm like, wow, they are ahead of schedule a lot earlier than I thought. And they just continue to carry that momentum. Reach 50 wins for the first time since KD left. Really is a lot of milestones. Reach 50 wins, won the division, and then carried that momentum over into the first round of the playoffs where they swept the Pelicans. And that was literally their first playoff series win, again, since KD left. So future's bright. And on top of that, they were the youngest team in NBA history to ever clinch a number 1 seed. So that's a very, very, very good sign.
I think that's what got me is that, like, nobody on this team is old at all. I was like, oh, wait a second. Because they look like a roster where I was like, okay, in 3-5 years, they're going to be a problem.
Yeah.
All these kids are young. They make me feel old. Yeah. And here they are winning, what, 57 games? It was crazy.
I mean, I had a group chat with another couple of friends of mine when they were asking me about OKC. And gosh, this might have been 2021, 2022. I said, give them about 4 or 5 years. We'll see what happens. You know, they're storing up a lot of draft. They got a lot of first round draft picks to play with. You know, I want to see what happens. I said, give them 4 or 5 years. But again, looks like they're way ahead of schedule. They've exceeded my expectations so far.
Yes, a lot of 99, 2000 birthdays that really had me. I had to look in the mirror and get real with myself about where I stand in this society. But
I was rubbing my knee quite a few times.
Right. So what was it? What do you think accounted for that huge jump from year to year?
I think Shai had a lot to do with it. I think the head coach had a lot to do with it as well. I'm really a big Mark Daigneault fan. He was actually, before he got the head coaching job with the Thunder, he was actually the head coach for the G League team, the OKC Blue. And I think he'd been there probably 4 or 5 years, and then when Billy Donovan left, he got promoted to the head coaching job. And once he got his staff and got all the players that he wanted, and then they just continued to gel and improve over the course of time, I was like, man, they're truly on. I think they're on the brink of doing something special.
Yeah, I remember doing an NBA preview a couple years ago, probably, and I had to have your help in how to pronounce his name as a coach. But now, I mean, you go get that number 1 seed. I have trouble pronouncing it, but I know the name, and that's what's important. And that just kind of shows you how quickly this has turned around. I think 40 wins last year. It was in the 20s the 2 years before that. I don't know. Yeah. I don't remember seeing a team. Do you remember seeing a team do this with just kind of like the same core group so quickly?
No, I'm thinking maybe the 2011, 2012 Thunder, maybe. But then they got to the finals and then they split that, and then that team split up. So
yeah, that was a shame. That's a good call though, because let the people know you're not just a Thunder fan. You've been here since way back with this team, right?
yeah, I actually the reason I became a Thunder fan, or how I became a Thunder fan, is because I grew up a diehard fan of the Seattle Supersonics, and then when they moved to OKC in 2008, I just carried my fandom along with them to OKC. I mean, if I actually lived in Seattle, I would probably feel a way about the team leaving, but I didn't really have that kind of emotional attachment to it, so it made my decision that much easier.
Yeah, I think you're right in that feeling. But I mean, those Sonics teams, they were always legit. I grew up a Rockets fan, and the Rockets just didn't have anything for the Sonics. That was a tough matchup, even with Hakeem. I mean, Peyton and Kemp, then going through the Ray Allen years, and obviously the KD, Westbrook, and beyond. Yeah. How much does it remind you with all the young talent? You kind of spoke to the lead that they've made being similar. How much does this team remind you of those early KD Westbrook years?
Man, it was almost similar in how they were the two young guns, and they left a great impression on the league, well, very early on, but they still came with their growing pains. I think with KD, if I'm not mistaken, his rookie year, I think the Sonics finished 20-62 that year. And then when they went to OKC, I believe they were 23-59, I want to say. And then the next year, I think they ended up winning. I think they ended up making the playoffs that following year, if I'm not mistaken. And I believe they lost to the Lakers in the first round. And then after that, I think they went to the NBA Finals. No, they went to the NBA Finals in 2012. I was like, wow, just seeing the team just gradually improve the way that they did with that young core of players. I was like, man, they might have something. Like I said before, they weren't able to keep that core intact. They kept Serge Ibaka, and then James Harden. They gave him the heave ho, and just think they weren't able to sustain that championship level of success. But yeah, I'm very curious to see what this young core is going to do this go around.
You and me both. So you talked about Shai a little bit. What is it about his game that makes him so effective? Like, when you tune in, when you're watching the Thunder games, what are you looking at him doing, and you're like, okay, this guy is the truth?
Man, it's just his game is so smooth. The way he can just stop and start. The way he can create space when he's driving, then he just steps back and then just lets one fly. And he's so good in the mid-range game. It's like he can hit mid-range jumpers in his sleep. It's such a joy to watch him hoop. I think over this offseason, he really worked on getting a shot off quicker, and I noticed that in watching the preseason games. And again, every single year he's worked on something different, and he's just gradually improving his game. Man, he's just I really don't have I'm out of superlatives for Shai. I mean, finished second in the MVP voting. I think averaged 31 points a game. I mean, I think the man is just, he's special talent.
I know.
I mean, the fact that he's able to get the number of blocks that he can get at the guard position, and I mean, led the league in steals last year. I mean, he's again special talent.
Yeah, and different playing styles, different positions. Shai's smaller, but when I watch him play, it reminds me of watching tape of an old South Carolina guy, Alex English, just with the smoothness.
Yeah,
like I'm like, man, he's just just unbothered, going to get to his spots.
Yep.
Just a beautiful mid-range jumper, like you said. Just a cool basketball player.
Yes, 100%.
So let me see. I'm looking up his, that's back-to-back seasons with 30. Yeah, this guy is the truth. And then he's got a pretty solid, well, this is actually a question for you because I've been trying to figure it out. He's got his co-star from the What a Pro Wants commercials, Chet Holmgren, and someone who I think is what, yeah, I mean, we got a little tired of them, but, you know, I'm glad to see them get some shine. And then he's got someone who I think is wildly underrated in this league, Jalen Williams. When you look at the team, who do you think is his number two as far as who's the number two option if this team is at its best and is going to get the most out of this roster as possible? Who do you think is the number two player here?
I think is this player you just mentioned, Jalen Williams. I mean, when they drafted him in 2022, I knew absolutely nothing about him. He was a 12th overall pick. And they drafted him. I'm like, probably there was a lot more people than me that had the same opinion. Like, who? I mean, he's a guard out of Santa Clara that I knew absolutely nothing about. And then when I saw him in Summer League, my jaw was on the floor. I'm like, this kid's got something, man. And then just the way he just beasted out in Summer League and then how he was able to carry that into the regular season, his rookie year. And then last year, improved even more. He averaged 19, 4, and 4, shooting 54, 42, and 81 split. I'm like, that is wild. But it's so easy for his name to get lost in the shuffle, being that it's so guard heavy in the West. You got Shai, you got Steph, you got Devin Booker, you got Anthony Edwards. So, I mean, his name is not going to be the first name that comes up, but I mean, he's the number two to me on this team.
I think you are 1,000% correct. I don't know. I'm looking. He came in fourth in most improved voting last year. I don't know how that happened, other than the fact that OKC doesn't get a lot of national love, and came in second in Rookie of the Year to Paolo Banchero, I believe, but very easily could have won Rookie of the Year as well. Think he should have been a little higher in the most improved last year. The shooting splits are ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of want to see if he shoots more threes this year, because when you're hitting that many threes, you might as well keep firing them up.
Yeah. The coach actually said that, the coach actually stressed that he wanted Jalen to shoot more threes this year. So we're going to see that.
Okay, good. So, because I mean, with that guy, I think, as good as he is, he clearly has more room to improve than Shai does, even though I do expect Shai to come back with something else in his bag. But it's hard to get that much better than 31, 5 and 5 or whatever it is. The only person who gets that much better at basketball after being at that level is Asia Wilson. But I think Jalen, he's got a lot left. Like, that was his second year in the league. And normally we see players make that leap in their third year.
Agreed.
I mean, I don't know, man. I should have been a Supersonics Thunder fan myself. I'm trying to figure out if Bronny's going to get minutes, and you're here talking about Jalen Williams. So, but no, I do agree. Number two, Jalen Williams. But let's talk about the number three guy, Chet Holmgren. Really withstood the physicality of the league much better than I thought he would last year.
Yeah.
Did that surprise you at all?
Very much so, because I was a little concerned after he had that Lisfranc surgery. And especially with his frame, would he be able to take that beating night in and night out? And if I'm not mistaken, he played all 82 games this year. But he's really been and he's really been a dog this year. And if it wasn't for Wemby, he probably would have been Rookie of the Year this year.
Yeah, he was. I don't know how you compete with Wemby, because that's just generational talent. But I think Chet's got the opportunity to do some big things himself. I did see. Have you been seeing on social media where he's changed his shot up a little bit?
No, I haven't seen that.
So it looks a little funky, but I think from what I've seen that, first of all, it takes time when you work with a new form to get comfortable with it. And it's going to look different game speed versus shooting warm-up shots when you're trying to develop the muscle memory. But it looks like they're trying to get his release point higher so that he can shoot more threes as well and a little bit more, work on a mid-range game too without it getting blocked. But I am curious because, I mean, his shot 37% from three last year wasn't bad, but clearly they saw something. And I do trust y'all with player development. Y'all have done a great job with that, obviously. But I am curious to see how long it takes that shot to develop.
Yeah, you and me both.
That'd be my only real red flag with him. I mean, clearly he still needs to put on a little more muscle mass, but that's just something that takes time. We saw Giannis do the same thing. I don't know if he's going to get Giannis big, but Giannis was not Giannis when Giannis came in the league. So,
yeah. And that was one of the reasons why they ended up getting bounced out of the semifinals last year by the Mavs, because they didn't have enough weight up in the interior. And PJ Washington and Derek Lively, they just had their way.
Yeah. So you read my mind, because that's what I was about to ask you about next. They made some moves this offseason. Do you think they have addressed that issue in particular? Because that was the glaring need for me that I saw.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, in Presti we trust. I was like, man, I hope they can. Who are they going to get in free agency? And then when I saw the Knicks gave all that money to Jalen Brunson, and in the back of my mind, I'm thinking they might not have enough money to keep Isaiah Hartenstein. And sure enough, thoughts became things, and he became a free agent. I'm like, okay, you got a seat right here in OKC. And then I saw he tweeted that he was meeting with the Thunder Brass in Oregon, and then like 3 or 4 hours later, here comes a Woj bomb. He's signing with the Thunder for 3 years. I'm like, yes, man. That's because that's the heft that they needed up front. He's only an inch shorter than Chet, but he's 50 pounds, literally 50 pounds heavier than Chet. So they needed that great interior presence and just somebody to do all the dirty work and rebound and block and set screen. He's a hell of a screen setter too, and that'll allow Shai and Jalen's game to open up even more with his ability to set screens. And I thought that was it. And then they go and get Alex Caruso and get rid of Josh Giddey. So that black cloud hanging over OKC is now gone. And there was a straight up swap. He didn't have to give up any first round picks or anything. And Giddey is good, but he just wasn't a good fit for the squad. And he struggles with his shot, and he cannot defend to save his life. And then you bring in Alex Caruso, who can knock down the three, and now you bring in somebody who has made the all-defensive team the last 2 seasons. So you got him. So basically, you got Chet and Hartenstein in the paint. Then on the perimeter, you got Shai, who led the league in steals, like I said. You got Lou Dort, who was 2 votes shy of making the all defensive second team last year. And then you got Alex Caruso. So defensively, pick your poison.
Man, the Giddey trade, I remember I just kept looking to see who else they gave up to get Caruso, because I could not believe that it was just a straight up swap, because Caruso's been a guy I've been sick over since the Lakers got rid of him after the championship. And you're right. Lockdown perimeter defender, really improved 3-point shooter. Speaking of that, you brought up Lou Dort, who I was making fun of. I know y'all did bring in Chip England as a shooting coach. Mm-hmm. That man must be a magician, because he's got Lou. Remember how bad they used to just not only play off Lou, but just clown him.
Yeah.
Now he's a knockdown 3-point shooter.
Yeah. Who
and
knew?
Then the Hartenstein thing. Oh my goodness, man. That doesn't even seem fair that he could, like, people don't develop 3-point shots from where he started with his 3-point shot. That is ridiculous. That's why you see the video of Chet And you would want to be like, oh, okay, something's going on. But then it's the same team that just had Lou Dort, where he's shooting it off the side of the backboard and breaking windows in the arena and everything. And now this man is a knockdown shooter.
Yes.
And I'm like, okay, something's going on there. And then you're right, the Hartenstein. So I was talking about the Raptors earlier today, and we were talking about the differences between the big market teams like the Lakers versus Toronto or OKC and how they have to develop their rosters. And so I was kind of thinking that OKC would just have to use their draft capital, maybe draft a guy and develop him. And to get a free agent signing like that with a dude who is ready to go today, who can do the stuff that y'all didn't have last year. And you're right, a screener reminds me of Steven Adams as a screener. Also, incredible passer for his position. He averaged, I believe, 3.5 assists per game in the playoffs last year.
Yeah.
Doesn't even seem halfway fair. That's why I see a lot of talk. You got to respect Boston for winning. I see a lot of Boston repeat talk. I'm not seeing nearly enough OKC winning the title talk. What's going on with me? Am I too high on the Thunder? I'm talking to a Thunder fan, but you are a sports person, so you're realistic. You've seen the build up. Are y'all ready to win it all this year?
Ooh, I would say I'll say Western Conference Finals. At the
Western
very
Conference
least.
Finals.
Yeah. If I wouldn't be surprised if they make the NBA Finals this year, but Western Conference Finals for sure.
I mean, that's progress. And it's, again, like we've been saying, a young team. And yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to see how people get buckets against y'all, because there's not too many holes on that defense anymore now that Giddey's in Chicago. So I don't know.
Man, we'll see. We'll see what the future
so
holds.
Who else? Yes. Who else? We've talked about the main guys, the new additions. There is a rookie I want to get to in a bit. But who on this roster of players that don't get enough love, who is someone on the roster that doesn't get enough love, in your opinion?
Man, my favorite player on the team that's not the players that we mentioned is Isaiah Joe. That man, when he came to OKC from Philly. He was strictly the 3-point specialist. And then last year he expanded his game. Next thing, all of a sudden, he's got a mid-range. He's driving to the hoop. I was like, this man he's really expanded his game. He's just not a one-trick pony. And the one trick that he did fairly well, because OKC always needed that one person that could just knock down threes. And I think the last person that they had strictly as a 3-point specialist was Anthony Morrow. And that was a long time ago. So he's been impressive enough to the point where they gave him an extension last year. And also Andrew Wiggins. I mean, not Andrew Wiggins, Aaron Wiggins. Sorry. He's another guy that I love that comes off this, that runs with the second unit. He just does all the dirty work, and he's got a nice shooting touch as well. And he also got a 2-year extension. So I'm glad that the front office is locking up the reserves as well, so they can keep that cohesive unit. But yeah, those are the two guys that I love on the team.
Yeah, man. Isaiah Joe, you're right, man. That kid can shoot the hell out the ball. I'm gonna have to pay attention to Wiggins this year and see, because I haven't seen too much of him, but yeah, it puts up good numbers. I don't know, man. Depth, as far as depth, I guess the one thing y'all do have other Jalen Williams providing a little muscle behind Hartenstein. I'm liking how this roster is looking. I do think might have, similar to the Pacers, might have been a little bit ahead of schedule last year. So there might not be that natural progression of, okay, we were the number 1 seed. Now we will just keep progressing in a linear fashion, go on to the Western Conference Finals this year and so on and so forth. But I do think y'all be much improved. And like I said, I would not be shocked to see y'all in the finals, which means we would get to see a South Carolina native in the finals.
Yes.
Dylan Jones. Weber State, Went to Keenan, I believe, in Columbia.
Oh, he did?
Let me.
I knew he.
Maybe I'm wrong. I could be wrong on that.
Because I knew he was from Columbia. I didn't peep to see what high school he went to.
Let me double check on the high school. But while I'm doing that, what have you seen from Dylan Jones that's got you? Are you high on Dylan Jones other than the fact that he is a South Carolinian as well?
I'll tell you what. And again, just like the Jalen Williams pick, I knew absolutely nothing about Dylan Jones. And then when I saw he was from Columbia, I was like, oh, wait a minute. But yeah, I was just checking him out. I mean, he's a 4-year player, Big Sky Player of the Year out of Weber State, like you said. Built like a tank, 6'6", 235, got a 7-foot wingspan. Senior year, he averaged almost 21 points and 10 rebounds a game. And I just watching his tape, I'm like, man, I love this dude. It seems like he just does so many things well. And his game, he kind of reminds me of Jarrell Brantley, who used to play at college at Charleston, especially with that frame. Only thing is that Dylan Jones brings the ball up the court a lot more than Brantley did, but that's who his game really reminds me of. And I like that, just having that guy to come in with and again run with the second unit. And he's been hooping his ass off in the summer league too, and he's carried that into the postseason. I mean, the preseason. He's had some pretty impressive games in the preseason. So I'm really looking forward to see what he's going to do this year. And the other player that they drafted, he did go to Keenan. Okay.
Yeah, so he went to Keenan, but then he did transfer to Sunrise Christian out in Kansas, which is like one of those basketball, like an Oak Hill type school.
Okay.
But he did start his high school career at Keenan.
So, I didn't know that.
But yeah, the other draft pick, by all means.
Nikola Topic, he's a 6'6" point guard out of Lithuania, 19 years old. He's not playing this year because he's on the mend from having a torn ACL, and I don't really know a whole bunch about him. They say he's got really good court vision, and he's not afraid of going to the hoop. They say his outside jumper needs a lot of work, but I mean, again, he's only 19. He's got plenty of time to really get things together.
Yeah, and that kind of feels like a smart draft and stash pick since, I mean, y'all have so much like we were just talking about. You might as well kind of swing on a player who could be something in the future and has a weakness in shooting that they've already proven that they can address no problem. So I like that pick too. But yeah, definitely pulling for the South Carolina kid for sure. And I guess, I feel like we've hit pretty much everything. So what is we talked a little bit about the Western Conference Finals. What should we expect from the Thunder as terms of, it doesn't have to be like a number necessarily, although that would be cool too. And what should people be excited about? I mean, if you haven't been excited through what we've been talking about, then maybe check your pulse. But what should people be excited to check out about the Thunder this year, whether they're a fan or just tuning in because we make the Thunder sound so cool?
Man, more from the defensive standpoint. Like I said, with the addition of Hartenstein and Caruso, going to be a lot more tenacious on defense. And I really want to see the leap that Jalen Williams takes this year, because I've seen a lot of publications having him as the player to look out for as far as making the biggest leap. So those two things right there. And of course, Shai, I mean, is he going to, maybe he wins the MVP this year. We'll see. I mean, he was second behind Jokic. So we'll see if that was a motivator for him to, take his game to the next level.
Yeah, back-to-back top 5 MVP finishes. And, I mean, he's been pretty healthy recently, too. I know he had some health stuff earlier in his career, but he's been durable. Like you said, he's always adding something to his game. Mm-hmm. Defensively, I think if you're going to watch Shai, you're going to see the scoring by all means. Pay attention to what he does defensively. You mentioned the block shots, the steals. This is a guy who runs point and can do this as well. So special player. Man, I think we covered it. So People, y'all need to check out everything Danny does. I'm gonna ISO Danny right now. Danny, tell them where they can find you.
I got the ball. Y'all go.
He's got it. Clear out.
Yeah.
Clear out.
So you can find me on IG at Danny Foxworth 843. My podcast is a baseball podcast called At the Plate with Danny Foxworth. Then I have another podcast which is basically general discussion, random topics, random special guests. Is Since We Last Spoke with Danny Foxworth. And then I have another podcast called Growing Up Low Country with Liz and Danny, where Liz, my best friend, my longest tenured friend ever in life, Liz Rennie, and we talk about, growing up low country. And then my podcast about candles, which basically I sniff them, I give them reviews, and then I go on rants about the Carolina Panthers, is called A Wicked Good Time with Danny Foxworth. You can find all of those on all streaming platforms, and you can find the videos for those episodes on my YouTube channel, which is also at Danny Foxworth 843. Brandon, I appreciate you. So good to finally be able to nerd out about my favorite NBA team on the planet. And again, thank you. The pleasure was all mine.
Nah, man, this was fantastic. A Wicked Good Time is all your podcasts are good. This one, I was like, man, I don't know if I'm the market for it. I listened to a couple episodes. Surprisingly, it is for me. I mean, you got me with the Carolina Panthers rants already. So, I'm a Panthers fan too, unfortunately. So I'm in it just for that. But that's really well done. Excited to see how that one continues to grow. And man, yeah, I got to have you back on. We need to do a Sonics retrospective episode because I want to hear all that. So yes. we already got the next episode locked in. So don't worry about that.
I got some scabs to peel.
I'm sure you do because, man, them 96 finals. But, and man, yeah, the Miami Heat ones too. But no, man, I'm going to put everything, as always, in the show notes. It's going to be easy to find Danny, one of the best IG accounts you can follow, one of the best Twitter accounts you can follow. All his podcasts are great. He doesn't miss. Check him out, please, and thank you. But yeah, and while you're here, make sure you subscribe, rate, review, comment, share. And yeah, that's going to do it for us, man. I will catch y'all later.